A courtyard student whose name starts with S finds himself in a tricky situation during an intense session of the game Pugmire, a fantasy RPG about intelligent dogs in an after-human world. S's dog, Spike, has been captured along with several other dogs by an ancient malfunctioning robot known as FancyBot to take part in a bizarre version of the Westminster Kennel Club, which includes jumping through spinning blades and crossing a pit of snakes. He and his party have survived all of that and are now facing off with FancyBot himself. It's time to pull out all the stops, the final boss battle. FancyBot has a pair of automated laser cannons, and his cane, naturally, can blast out electric shocks. The dogs need every edge they can get. Now, S thinks smart. He wants to use the environment to get an edge. He asks me, the game master, if there are any explosive barrels around. You know, explosive barrels. They're always lying around in video games, and they lend an extra bit of explosion to the world. As we all know, explosions are awesome. Now, here's a bit of a behind the scenes reveal. I did not intend for there to be explosive barrels. S and his friends, including a dog in heavy armor and a longbow wielding hound, could probably handle FancyBot only with their weapons. I figured they would solve the problem the way most RPG characters solve problems. Hit it with sharpened metal until it goes away. But then I remembered one of the core tenets of game mastering. Yes, and. This is a classic technique from the world of improvisational comedy, or improv. Miss Jill and Miss Jessie are both experts on improv, so they might have mentioned it before. I've taken a class or two on it myself, and it's improved my role playing skills in amazing ways. Improv is, like role playing games, collaborative storytelling. You're working with other people, in this case, your players, to tell a compelling story. Now, in the world of improv, yes and is the concept of always agreeing with the other people on stage. And then, if possible, heightening. It's crucial to scenes working. If they say, put on this bear costume, and you say, no, I don't want to, that's it. That's the end of the scene. It can't go anywhere. But if you say yes and even add to it, you can create magic. The concept applies to role playing games as well. You are building a story with your players. When they're making a suggestion about the world, saying yes will let them shape the story, pull off that great plan they're thinking of, and have some truly amazing role playing moments. Now, this is still a game. Dice rolls still matter. So if they're asking for something that seems like it would be a challenge, remembering the simple rule, when in doubt, roll it out, usually helps. But if their idea is going to improve the scene, why not add it in? Now, RPGs and improvs aren't entirely the same. Improv's goal is to entertain an audience and make them laugh. If you're game mastering an RPG, your goal is for your players to have fun. Because remember, if they have fun, you're having fun. Now, a player's ideas might be fun for them in particular, but it might not be good for other players or for the overall game you're crafting. For instance, I was once running a game of Dungeons and Dragons, not at Courtyard, where I had the villain, an evil general with a robot army, swing by the restaurant the players own to threaten them. I figured it would be a cool chance to show off the villain, let the players know what they're dealing with. One player asked me if he could cast a magical spell, and then a curse. I said, why not? Yes. Then the player revealed that he had mind controlled the general into talking with him about robots for 3 hours. What? That would have brought the game to a screeching halt, and the other players would have nothing to do during those 3 hours of robot conversations. Also, I'm pretty sure this guy didn't wear deodorant. But back to the main issue. This player shouldn't have done that, but this situation is a failing in my part as a dungeon master, and that happens from time to time. We're human, we make mistakes, but it's important to learn from them. In this case, what I should have done, and what all game masters should do if their players have a sort of large-scale plan, is ask, what are you trying to do here? What's the goal of your scheme? If you appreciate their goal, you can incorporate it. If not, you can find a compromise. Well, you won't be able to do that, but it's possible you could do this. That way, it's less like the players are trying to sneakily trap you into letting them get away with something, and more like they're building the story with you. All of this brings me back to FancyBot and the courtyard student whose first name starts with an S, and those explosive barrels. Now, would explosive barrels stop the game? Would they make it less fun for the other players? The answer is no. Explosive barrels make everything better. I agreed and heightened. The barrel is next to one of FancyBot's laser cannons. Then, during his turn, S pushed the explosive barrels straight into FancyBot's path and, with some help from his friends and some good dice rolls, used the laser cannon to shoot the explosive barrel and blow that robot to pieces. FancyBot's head sailed away, and he made his escape. You can't keep a good villainous robot down, after all. But S and his friends had a great time. They had a memorable Pugmire session. So memorable that I'm recounting it right now. And all because S, who is a kindergartner, I should add, asked a question about the world of the game. So, the next time your players want to try something, go ahead and say yes and. That's all for the concept of yes and in RPGs. But how do you dream up those wonderful role-playing game worlds anyway? Where do the post-apocalyptic robot Westminster Kennel Club dog shows come from? That's in our next episode, where I'll talk about what goes into creating the story for a role-playing game. Until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and as always, farewell, traveler.